Honoured Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honoured guest. A few months ago we spoke about conserving water, and my big plan for conserving water was to drink less water and to drink more beer. But at the end of the month, when the grocery bill was finally tallied up, my wife decided that I was spending too much money on beer. So I had to come up with another plan. That door was shut, so I had to open another door in order to conserve water or get more beer. So luckily, a new shop called Hops and Tannins opened up in Anthem, which is a home brewery, beer and winemaking store. So I visited there, got some great advice from the owner, and bought a beer making kit in order to save some money and save some water at the same time. So I opened up the kit, and it looked quite complicated, but the man in the beer shop said, if you can make macaroni and cheese, you can make beer. So that's okay. So either way, I either have macaroni and cheese or beer, so it's okay. I started off with a German style beer called Maibock. The first thing you do in beer making is to take a bag of grains, and this bag of grains is a specially mixed bag of barley and malt, which has been crushed and put in a muslin bag. You open that muslin bag, you don't have to open it, but you open it and you give a big sniff and you smell a farm. You don't necessarily smell anything processed yet, because it's not. It's natural, a natural smell, very evocative of farmland to me. So we take that bag of grains and we put it in about a gallon of water, I guess tepid water at this stage, at about 150 degrees, no more than 170. And we let it sit and stew in this water for about 20 minutes. This starts to give off a very bread-like smell. If you've ever made bread, but before it's too far along the process, kind of at the early stages of the process, after you start to heat the dough. If you've got a bread maker, once the bread maker starts actually heating the dough, you get a kind of yeasty smell, although there's no yeast in the beer at the moment, because it's not beer. At the moment, once the process of steeping the grains is over, the beer is not called beer, like I said, it's called wort, W-O-R-T. A special name for it, which is not used for anything else. So we take the grain bag out of the wort, and then we sparge it. Great word, sparge, S-P-A-R-G-E. And that sparging is basically taking a pot of hot water and pouring it through the grain bag again to get the last of the grain juices into the wort. We then discard the grain bag, taking care not to give it to the dog. It's funny, but apparently in the beer making process there is something goes on with the yeast and the grains and stuff, which the dog will want to eat, but it's actually quite dangerous. So Ralph doesn't get any of the beer making stuff. Now we turn up the heat, crank up the heat, and we bring the wort to a boil, a rolling boil. Again, the lovely smell starts to pervade through the house. And my wife doesn't object to this smell, and the reason for that is because I once made Worcester sauce, which involves boiling a gallon of vinegar for 8 hours. So I'm no longer allowed to make Worcester sauce, but beer does smell a little bit better than that. So once we have the rolling boil, we add malt extract. It comes in various forms, either liquid or dried malt extract. And depending on the recipe of the beer you're looking for, you add different combinations of light malt extract, dark malt extract, and you put it all into the boil and let it roll out. And then we add, at this stage, we add what's called hops, the bittering hops. Now you hear on beer commercials all over the place, triple hops brewed. I'll let you into a secret, all beer is triple hops brewed. You add hops for three parts of the process. The first is to give it a bitter taste, which is called the bittering hops. The second is for aroma, to give it that beer hoppy smell. And the third part is for flavour, to give it the flavour into the beer. Once we added the hops, we boil it all up for perhaps an hour, depending on the recipe. We then shut off the heat. By this stage, it smells a lot stronger. You have the hoppy aroma going through the house, which my wife still doesn't object to because she still remembers the Worcester sauce. So we're okay there. And a nice hoppy smell coming from the wort. Then we let it cool a little bit to relax, and then before siphoning it from the pot into a bucket where we're going to ferment it. Not foment it, or ferment it, but ferment it. We put it into a bucket where we add some ice water to bring it down to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we pitch in some yeast. Depending on the type of beer, different types of yeast. We put in some yeast, stir it about, and then put the lid on. An important thing to remember here is not to put the yeast in when it's too hot. I did that actually last time, and the yeast blew out the top of my barrel and got all of it. And it was stout. I was making imperial stout, so it was black beer. But I'm still allowed to make beer in the house. So anyway, we leave that for 2 weeks. We then take it out and bottle it. Bottle the beer. Out of one kit, we get about 50 bottles of beer. So we then put them somewhere quiet and dark to let it carbonate. So the beer carbonates. Over about 2 weeks, it carbonates and matures a little bit. And then, the best part, we can drink it. And it's very good beer, better than any store-bought beers. I encourage you to try it for yourself. The shop's up, Hops and Tannins is up in Anthem. If you need the directions, I'd be happy to give you directions. The owner there knows what he's talking about. He's very informative, very nice man. So, with that, I will return control to the Toastmaster.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmaster, and honored guests. Rob's goals were to select the right words and sentence structures to communicate very clearly, accurately, and vividly. I feel like he met those goals. He first caught our attention with his reference to conserving water by drinking beer, which we remember when he did that. But then he told us about making beer. Now, making beer has a lot of specific words that could have been confusing to us, but he very clearly told us about those words and made those clear to us and used them then correctly so that we understood what those words meant and made the process clear, although it did require the use of jargon, which he was supposed to avoid. Rob used many rhetorical devices during his speech that emphasized his points and made his descriptions of the process very real to us, and those descriptions were very humorous and related to a lot of the things that we remember in our own lives, so that those descriptions made the process very real to us. So that part of the speech was very, very good. The only improvement that I think Rob could have made was to build up a little more drama at the end, maybe set the stage a little more dramatically for that opening of that first bottle of beer and describe the taste and how wonderful it was so that we could have been involved in that first sip of your new beer. And that would have made that a little more dramatic. And after we've been so totally, completely sucked into the process of making it, then we would have tasted it with you too. But other than that, I thought Rob did a wonderful job today.